Am I the asshole for not wanting to pretend to be my twin on her wedding day? I, 30F, have an identical twin sister, and for the purposes of anonymity, I'll call her Jess. Jess and I look so much alike it can be freaky. At one point when we were still infants, they had to draw a little dot at the bottom of one of our feet just so they could keep track of who was who for medical reasons. My mom adored the fact that Jess and I were her cute baby twin girls and treated us as precious dolls who she would frequently dress alike and always make us do things together. At first I didn't mind it at all because, well, it was my normal and I do genuinely love my sister, but when we started getting older and I developed my own interests, I would get so frustrated or upset when I either couldn't do something because Jess didn't want to, or the only way that I could do it was if Jess could come with me and vice versa. It sucked because despite our appearances, Jess was the more extroverted twin who liked to go to parties and do sports while I was introverted and artistic. I was always made to do what Jess wanted to do because me not wanting to be so social was seen as bad, and the only way that Jess would agree to endure my hobbies was if I did her homework or chores. When my parents were divorcing, I was over the moon when my dad agreed to let me live with him in another state, and Jess didn't want to move away from all her friends. My mom cried when I had to tell her I didn't want to live with her, and Jess accused me of hating them. This really wrecked me emotionally, and I almost caved, but my dad got me into therapy, who helped me gather the courage to just leave. I never really did shake off the guilt until around senior year of high school, but I never once regretted my choice because of how liberating I felt by getting to just be me. I was slowly able to repair my relationship with my mom and Jess, but Jess and I were never as close as we used to be, and I was honestly fine with that. Fast forward to adulthood, and Jess is engaged to her boyfriend Steve, 36M, and their wedding is set for this spring. Unfortunately, Jess was recently in a bad accident, and her face is going to need to get cosmetic surgery. She has been crying on and off for days over this because there's no way she'll be healed up in time for the wedding. My mom, Steve, and I have been trying to console her, but it's not enough. Earlier this week, my mom approached me with the idea of dressing up as Jess and pretending to be her for the ceremony and reception so the pictures will look nice. I was floored and gave a hesitant no, because while I do know that this would mean a lot to my sister, I just feel really uncomfortable about it. My mom was upset with me and said that it wasn't a big deal, it was just for the pictures, and asked me if I really wanted to make it so that Jess would have to be reminded of her trauma whenever she had to look at her wedding photos or just not have any photos at all. Am I the asshole? Update. Thanks for all your advice and suggestions, as well as affirmation that I have the right to say no. Still dealing with residual guilt about refusing to do things for my mom, and so I reached out to Steve first about suggesting Photoshop, and turns out he and Jess were already considering that before deciding to just postpone the wedding, as Jess is dealing with PTSD from the accident and doesn't believe that she is going to be able to handle the stress of a wedding in 3 weeks. I was so relieved and told Steve that I would be more than happy to help with getting the word out to people that the wedding wasn't happening right now. For the sake of peace and Jess's mental health, I've decided to keep what my mom said about using me as a replacement for the wedding photos to myself for now. Jess is really going through a lot, and I feel like this would be like rubbing salt in the wound. Am I the asshole for leaving a vacation I planned for my girlfriend after her friends came along? And I decided that I wanted to end this entire relationship. I packed my important belongings, ex-passport, clothes, and arranged with my best friend to crash at his apartment until I can find my own. Usually when small issues happen in a relationship, it ties into a bigger issue of that relationship. The main reason why I decided to break up is because I realized that her friends will always be closer to her than me. Sarah has favored her friends over me and blown off some of our plans for her friends more than once. I was lying to myself for years because I didn't want to face reality yet. I had hoped she would change, but this trip really opened my eyes that I will always be in third place to her. I expressed my feelings multiple times, and Sarah promised she would change, and she didn't. Sarah came home late yesterday. I said I have a lot to get off my chest, and I want to get through my notes before she talks or tries to interrupt me. The first question I asked Sarah was how she thought the trip went. She said we all had fun, and it was memorable. I shouldn't have to feel like the third wheel in my own relationship, especially on a trip that I planned. My next question was, why did you invite your friends in the first place? You knew this was an anniversary trip for US, and she talked about the trip with her friends since the beginning, and they'd never been to Colorado. She thought it would be a good idea to allow them to come just so they can have fun in Colorado with us. I followed up with my lack of knowledge of her friends coming along until days before. It's one thing if they came and did their own activities, but it's another thing that every activity became a group activity. I signed up for a monogamous, not poly relationship, and my last question was, did you know that I was going to propose to you? Sarah said she didn't know at all. The thought never occurred to Sarah that I was going to ask. She claimed that she wouldn't have invited her friends to come along if she knew, but I responded that it would ruin the surprise if I told you, and Sarah begged me to stay with her and believes we can work everything out. She didn't want me to throw 5 years away after this one bad trip. I listened to her promises to change for years regarding her friends, but nothing happened. I ultimately left Sarah with this. It's clear that there isn't enough room in your heart for your BF and your friends. As much as I love Sarah, I can't stay in a relationship where I'm not respected enough I left Sarah in the house by herself and I drove off to my friend's place. I'll figure out how to get my name off the lease and I'll plan to get the rest of my belongings. As for the ring, I will return it this weekend. And am I the asshole for telling my friend that I've accidentally been sleeping with her fiance? Ooh, boy, that's a hell of a title. I'm aware. I don't really know how to start this, so I'll just get into it. I'll preface this by saying that I'm 22M, very, very gay. I was in high school when I met this friend and she was the cool older kid the year above me. For all intents and purposes, we'll call her Sienna, 23F. Now, after high school, I went to an out-of-state college, while Sienna went to the local uni. We kind of lost touch other than the obligatory happy birthday and Merry Christmas text, so you can imagine my surprise when I got a text from my mom a few months ago saying that a wedding invitation from Sienna had gotten delivered to my parents' house. Sure enough, a quick text to the lucky lady confirmed that she was getting married. Her longtime partner, Marcus, 25M, had finally proposed. A summer wedding right in my hometown, right when I and some of our other friends would be back in town from uni. I was invited to one of the pre-wedding girls' nights because my life is that of the two-dimensional comic relief gay side character, I guess, and we got wasted, like the kind of drunk where logic isn't even in the same dimension. So when the topic of other people in the hashtag Girl Squad's relationships came up, like the genius I was, I whipped out my phone to show them the hot guy I'd been hooking up with as just a dumb summer fling, who turned out to be Marcus. Kill me now to save me from the mortification. Rightfully so, Sienna lost her shit. Fair, no criticism from me, but then she turned on me and started blaming me for ruining her wedding. For clarification, because I'm sure this will come up in the comments, no. The wedding invitation did not have any photos on it. It was one of those minimalist designs with over-the-top calligraphy. That's it. Her socials only feature her. Like, I had no way of knowing what he looked like. I don't personally think I was at fault here, but here's where I think I messed up. I very loudly, into the entire club, drunkenly said, "It's not my fault your cheating fiancé likes getting his back blown out, Sienna." I feel absolutely awful. I don't want to be the other woman, technically guy, but you get it. And I certainly don't want to hurt a friend like that. I've tried apologizing 1,000 times, but she's not interested in talking to me, which I totally get. When confronted, he confessed to not only hooking up with me, but also 8 different guys over the course of their 4-year relationship. The wedding's been called off. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for pulling out of my sister's wedding due to her in-laws? For background, Stella and I are identical twins, 29F, and we will both be 30 when her wedding comes around this fall. I had her as my maid of honor 8 years ago, and she promised me that I could be hers when her wedding came around. I have 2 kids, 6F and 3F. They're the flower girls. My marriage fell apart just over 2 years ago due to a stillbirth and my husband's infidelity. My parents and sister were the only reason I didn't drown from the stress, loneliness, and total abandonment of my spouse. I was a total mess. I went to therapy, got diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, quit drinking, and I owe a lot of it to my amazing sister. She's the reason why I kept chasing down my ex for child support when he stopped suddenly paying, suddenly switched from world's best dad to deadbeat dumbass so quickly that my ex-mill is disgusted with him. Stella and John, 35M, got engaged last year. His parents are paying about 60% of the wedding. Our parents are paying 30%, Stella and John paying for the rest themselves. The biggest caveat is that they must be married in John's family's church. Full mass with communion. The family is on board because this is going to be a very big wedding. Tonight, Stella had invited me to dinner, as they had finally reserved a date for the church and reception, assuming it was to formally ask me to be her MOH. I was excited since I haven't been in a wedding party aside from my own wedding. John was with her. Weird because Stella didn't mention him coming at all in our texts about the dinner. We hugged like usual, but John didn't. Weirder. After we got our drinks, they got to it. In a nutshell, John expressed the following. Despite my best efforts to keep it secret, my parents found out that you're divorced when they asked why your husband wasn't coming. They are no longer comfortable with you as maid of honor because it won't look good to the church if my family hears about the divorce. You can be a bridesmaid but can't mention the divorce or your conditions at all during the wedding events. I was stunned and I felt tears in my eyes. Stella started crying too and she tried to spin it in a good way. This is way less stressful for you, so it's a good thing. Mother-in-law has already approved my best friend forever as my maid of honor, so please don't make this any harder. I knew that I couldn't possibly stay there through an entire meal. I had to process this new info alone. I didn't speak. I just paid for my wickedly expensive cocktail and left to order an Uber home. A few hours ago, I texted Tella that I would not be in her wedding party at all. That was my decision. I wouldn't pull my daughters out, but I would only attend as a guest. She wouldn't take this as an answer, so I had to temp block her due to her excessive texts and calls. I sent my parents a summary of what happened and promised to call them when I was in better shape tomorrow. Stella thinks that this is a total overreaction. I don't even want to know what John thinks at this point. Please help me. Am I the asshole? Update. This is going to be a brief update. John found the post as he lurks on Reddit and shared it with Stella. Wish I used the fake name Ursula since she joked about that detail herself. Stella Ursula has officially called off the wedding. When John was ranting about the post and how bad the comments were painting him, he said that, "Your sister must be off her G&M meds and going manic. You better get her dollars under control." But then Stella Ursula actually came undone on him and began calling out everything that John and his family had put her through. Then she took off the ring and chucked it across the living room. John went into a rage, and while he didn't do anything but yell at her, he threatened her in regards to her mobility issues. Stella Ursula uses a cane to walk. This was what triggered her to text our parents and myself. By the time our parents made it to the house, John was gone and she had packed up her bags and left with them. Her cane was not in the house. Stella Ursula wanted to thank you all for the comments calling her out. It shattered the mosaic that John built around them. And while we're both still raw and processing the last couple days, I am glad to have my sister again. She was someone else I hardly recognized a few days ago. As kids, I was more outgoing and she was more reserved, so I felt obliged to go along with her the other night despite how conflicted I felt. But again, Stella Ursula says thanks for the wake-up call. And John, if you see this, fuck you. Am I the asshole for asking my best friend to break up with his uneducated, unemployed girlfriend so we can be together? And I know the title makes me seem like a bitch, but I couldn't think of another way to summarize it in one go. We'll call him Dean and we'll call his girlfriend Helen. And basically, I'm a university student and interned at a marketing company over the last few summers. Dean was my boss there and we became really close friends. Our friendship moved outside of work and I no longer intern there at all. The more we talked, the more I fell for him. He's incredible, hardworking, successful, funny, the whole package. His girlfriend is not emo. She's actually a loser. She's uneducated and unemployed. Helen dropped out of high school because of family problems. Apparently her mom has severe anxiety and depression, overdosed multiple times when Helen was a kid, and would have breakdowns, threatened to hurt herself if she was left alone. So Helen stayed home with her and still does when necessary because her father can't get retired. Over the years, Helen had admitted its weight on her own mental health. She sees a psychiatrist and takes medication, and she's developed her own irrational anxiety. She's had some jobs over the years. In the hours her dad is home with her mom from work, but would have screaming, crying, panic attacks while on the job. She has them at home sometimes too at night, but she can calm herself down okay apparently. Subsequently, she's never finished school or held down a job. Dean and I have talked about it many times. He insists she's doing her best, that she does all the cooking, cleaning, laundry, yard work, etc. at her home. She gets a very small amount of money from her father for this weekly. She also does video game streaming and makes some money from that. Barely any, I think. They've been together for 5 years, and he's come to terms with the fact she may never work or get educated. Dean has a marketing degree, but he doesn't seem to care. He says he will provide financially, and he's okay with her being a stay-at-home mom someday, or even just a stay-at-home wife. I DM'd him asking him why he's even in love with her, how he fell in love with her, just why, I don't get it. He can do so much better. He said this: I fell in love with her for many reasons. She's sweet, kind, cute, and she always sees the best in people, even with everything that she's been through. I think she's funny, beautiful, intelligent, and is always trying to do some good. I like that she's random, silly, quirky, and passionate, and I like how competitive she is because I'm competitive too. I like that she's athletic. I like how she cooks things top of the dome without the need to Google everything, like me. I love her giggle, and I really love her smile. I like her singing voice and, well, all of her voices. I like her hugs and I love her kisses. I like when her fingers are in my hair. I like the things that she draws or makes from hand. I like it when she holds my hand. I like her taste in memes, and I like her taste in music. I like her puns and her sense of humor. I really like her presence, and I like her dance moves and how good she is at everything. I like that she likes to help people. I genuinely like the person that she is. Always have. I admire her a lot and will always want her for myself. I told him how I felt about him, how I'm in love with him, and that I wished she wasn't around. He said, well, I'm lucky that she is. I don't know what did I do without her. I told him he's just comfortable and he's staying with her because it's been a long time. That been at a place in my life where I thought I couldn't go on without certain people, but I survived, and he would too. He said this: well, I don't want to, so I'd appreciate you not saying things like, I wish she wasn't in the picture. That's awful. If you cared at all about me, then you'd say that I'm lucky to have her and respect that, you know? So he adamantly won't leave her, and I don't understand why. With the little money she earns, she saves up to do some very special things for him. Got him a cameo from his favorite actress, took him to see his favorite sports team in the playoffs, got him a PS4. She's taking him to his favorite band this summer. She also does sweet stuff for him, like give him random cards, drawings, paintings, crap like that. I think maybe that's the real reason he stays with her, but I could do that stuff for him too. She's had years to do it. I'm studying hard. I work as a barista to get through school. Love talking to him. I love spending time with him. He means the world to me. Does anyone have advice on how I can win him over? I just want him for myself. The better choice for him. He just doesn't realize it right now. What can I do here? Am I the asshole for not wanting my husband to go to his ex's funeral? I'll admit I'm biased right off the bat. I couldn't stand her. I call her his ex to myself and others. He called her his friend. We're all in our early 40s. She died recently, aneurysm. I've been with him for 10 years now, but he'd known her for 20 plus. The way he tells it, they were friends in college, decided to date, got married, then realized they weren't a great couple and decided to just be friends. All that happened years before I met him. He was clear early on that she was important. A couple months into dating, it came up that his friend was actually his ex-wife. He explained the above to me, saying she was one of his closest friends and that it was purely platonic. I expressed some discomfort at him being so close to an ex, and he told me, "That's fine. If you have a serious issue with it, let me know now and save us some time. I'll choose her. I like you and all, but I've known her for over 12 years, and she's one of the most important people in my life. You'll have to be okay with that if you want us to be a thing." When we were engaged, I asked again. He gave me this perplexed look and asked, "Why would us getting married affect my friendships?" I sucked it up and went along. I resented every moment of knowing her, especially when we had to be social. She understood some part of him I couldn't. Her husband was friends with mine as well, so it's not like I could use him as an angle. He'd have lunch with the ex, they'd go to their geeky movies and whatever. The few times I brought it up, he said, "We had this conversation before, you had your chance to back out." She died after they had lunch the other day on the way to her car. He spent a bunch of time crying, but honestly, I was relieved. He was working with her husband on funeral planning. I told him, "You don't think you're going, do you?" And my argument summed up, she's dead, so she's not a factor anymore. He doesn't get to use his "she's my friend" excuse since she doesn't exist anymore. He had his cry for a couple days. He gets to be done with mourning her already. There's no need for him to go to her funeral since I wouldn't want her at his. He was the angriest I've ever seen him when I told him that, replying that he'll be going no matter how I feel and that he's willing to burn this to the fucking ground while holding up his wedding band. Besides you, she was the closest friend in my life. Him, her husband, and my sisters are calling me an insensitive asshole over this, all saying that there was no romantic aspect to their relationship and that I'm heartless. Her husband went so far as calling me a ghoul for how I've reacted. I never felt their relationship was appropriate, and I hid that for years because I wanted to be with my husband. Now that she's gone, I don't feel I should have to hide it anymore and can speak freely. Am I the asshole for just wanting him to be done with her and for him to not attend the funeral? Update. We've been together for 10 years, but he's choosing to end all of that because of how I reacted to his ex-wife's death. They were friends when we met, and his claim was that they dated and gotten married while they were young and dumb before realizing they worked better as friends than as a couple. He told me that if I wanted a relationship with him, I needed to accept she'd always be part of his life. He'd do things like go to geek movies with her, and sometimes her husband. They'd do their tabletop gaming, all of which I found boring. He and I had a mostly happy marriage, I thought, but I had to deal with her presence and pretending she and her husband were friends. I hated her, and when she died, I was relieved. I didn't want him going to his funeral saying now that she was out of his life, he was done with her. I was called cold and callous for wanting to put my foot down. Yes, he went to the funeral, which I was very uncomfortable with. I asked him not to go again, and he just gave me this cold, expressionless stare. She was cremated, and my husband was given a little bit of her ashes in a small urn the size of a pill bottle. I told him it was creepy to have them, and he flipped me the bird. The past month plus of my life has been a nightmare because of her dying. My husband has barely talked to me, and I've received texts from nearly all our friends and family calling me a monster. All because someone saw my original post on Reddit and shared it with everyone they could, even people at my job. Many of the posts here were nice in comparison to the things the people I thought were my friends said. I was just out of town for several days on a work trip. On Friday, I came home to a partly empty house, his car gone, and a petty-sounding letter saying that we would be getting a divorce. Not that he wanted one, that it was going to happen. He'd already filed. He said that my post was one of the most hurtful things he's ever read, and that my jealousy of his friendship was insane. He wrote, "I fucking watched her die. She was walking by my side when it happened. I have nightmares about it." He said I'd be keeping the house because I don't want to spend every morning waking up to a reminder of the years of lies that was our marriage. He left a list of what he's taking, saying I can keep the rest. His last line was, "If it had been me instead of her, she'd have been there for you in an instant. Remember that." I learned he's staying with her husband because that man sent me a long text telling me to stay away from his home, and he regretted ever letting me into his life. My own sister said if she learned I was dating someone, she'd fill him in on what a black-hearted C-word I am. So yeah, my husband is divorcing me because of his first wife's death. She's more important to him, and it seems to our friends, than keeping our marriage together is. She's screwing up my life even from the grave. Am I the asshole for not doing a favor for my dad and telling him I don't owe him or his favorite wife and kids favors? After our mom died, Dad told me and my siblings, 17 male, 16 female, and 14 male, that he was glad that part of his life was over and he was going to find someone he actually loved and wanted to be with, and we better be ready because he wasn't slowing down for us. This was 10 years ago. He met a few women before his wife of 9 years. They were together a few months before they got married, and she was pregnant right away. Dad said he knew she was the one. He was finally in love. That mom was his biggest regret in life. My sister would cry, which annoyed Dad. He'd say we should want him to be happy when he sacrificed his own happiness for us, and he's a better dad to the kids he has with his wife. He's there on their birthdays, remembers to buy them gifts, takes them out for ice cream or for special time with him. He comes home earlier to spend time with them before they go to bed and help with their homework. He never did that with us even after he started changing. My sister and brother really wanted him to for the longest time, but I always knew he was a shit parent and that he wasn't going to change toward us. We always fought. He told me the three of us were born selfish, that we wanted him to be unhappy for our sakes. I told him he basically dumped his issues onto 3 grieving kids and didn't give a fuck about what that did to us. I reminded him that my brother was only 4 years old when we lost Mom. Dad's response was that if I cared so much about them, I should care even more about my younger half-siblings. I told him I didn't. I have told him that a few times since my first half-sibling was born. In truth, I never spend any time with the halves or engage with them. It's me and my brother and sister and I put my time and love into them. My siblings have reached out to Dad and asked for him to love them and spend time with them, but his focus is on the family he wants, his favorite family as I think of them. I don't think of them as mine. And Dad's wife and one of his favorite kids had birthdays a day apart. His gift for one was delayed/late or whatever, and he wasn't going to pick both up on time, already a day late for one of them. So he asked me to do a favor for him and pick up one gift while he picked up the other. I said no. He told me I could do a favor for him since he's my dad, yada. I said no. The day came and went and I didn't get it. He freaked out and told me I was going to ruin the birthday. He told me I could have done a favor for him as we're all family. I told him I don't owe him or his wife or his favorite kids any favors. I reminded him that he owed his kids being a good dad and he wasn't to the 3 of us, so I'm not going to save his ass or do something that makes his favorite family happy because innocent or not, they are not my problem. He said I was such a child. Then he got my uncle to say how disappointed he was that I acted so petty. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for planning bad things for my mom to hide while snooping in my room and admitting it years later? I, 22F, grew up in an extremely religious household. My family was Mormon, and I knew from a very young age that I was not. As a teenager, I got rebellious. I drank energy drinks, tried Starbucks, and stopped reading my scriptures. My mom thought I was becoming a classic 1960s leather jacket bad girl. I really wasn't. I think the worst thing I did was steal from the store because there was a body wash I really wanted. I'm not saying I was a perfect angel by any means. I was definitely a little shit, but not a bad little shit. My mom started snooping through my room. I think she was convinced I was hiding stuff from her and wanted to find the evidence. I knew because I would find her in my room when I got home from school or noticed my stuff moved around. Being a petty teenager, I decided to give her what she was looking for. I planted notebooks with gory art, some cheap sex toys I found online, and a used pregnancy test. Not all at once, but building up to the pregnancy test. I even hide them in places she'd have to go looking for, like under the fitted sheet pressed between my mattress and the wall, or just inside the crawl space between 2 beams and buried at the bottom of my full trash can. Nothing really came of them, but my mom did text asking if I was hoping for a negative result like what the pregnancy test was showing. Fast forward to a few weeks ago. When my sister got married, we were all discussing family plans, raising kids, etc. My mom mentioned how she was able to stay 1 step ahead of my siblings and I. I guess my face showed it because she asked if I didn't believe her. I thought we were past the statute of limitations for my crimes, aka my mom would be upset for a little bit, but it would eventually become a funny story to tell, and told her that I didn't think she really was. We started going back and forth. She mentioned how we got a treat if we drank all the water in our bottle throughout the day. I told her I dumped out my water and still got the treats. She mentioned taking me to therapy to get all my emotions out. I told her I didn't talk to the therapist and knew she tried to get the therapist to tell her what I talked about during our sessions. Then she mentioned upgrading the home security because she knew I'd lost my virginity as a teenager and kept me from sneaking out. I never snuck out and faked a phone call with my friend saying I had when I hadn't because I knew she was eavesdropping. This continued, and I admitted I planted things in my bedroom for her to find because I knew she was snooping in my room, and she got really upset, and we haven't really talked much since. And I'm not trying to justify my actions as a kid because I know I could have handled things better. I think in a way I was trying to become all the things my mom thought I was because at least it fulfilled her expectations of me. Am I the asshole? Edit. Wow, this blew up quickly. I appreciate all the responses and wanted to maybe give some more insight to the type of person my mother is. For starters, no, I did not do this at my sister's wedding. I worded it poorly and meant that the wedding is what brought everyone together, and the wedding often brought up many conversations about raising kids. Some people have pointed out that it's weird my mom wasn't confrontational about things. My mom isn't a very confrontational person in general. She is the type of person who wanted to pretend I didn't know what she knew. I also think that because she never really had any proof I was this horrible kid like what she thought I was, that she was waiting to catch me in the act to justify the way she saw me. She really didn't say much when she found the things I planted. That did shock me as a teenager, and I'm not entirely sure why she didn't have a big reaction. And she was not trying to help me by dragging me to therapy. All she saw was a kid who wasn't religious and thought another adult could talk some sense into me. I did willingly attend therapy around 17 because I was trying to process actually leaving religion when I turned 18. There were many times where we would argue, and before I went to therapy, she'd say, "I hope you enjoy gossiping to your therapist about what a horrible person I am." I also knew from this therapist that on multiple occasions my mom would visit or call trying to get any sort of information about what I discussed during our sessions. I think because I never kept a diary, my mom had nothing to go off of because I never talked to her about anything going on in my life. That's because I knew she would tell other people about anything I would say. I have very distinct memories of her gossiping about my cousins and my older sister in such a negative light. I knew she would gossip about me to other people, so she doesn't get anything to gossip about. In the end, I think a lot of her behavior boiled down to the fact that she sees herself in me. She did say that a few times, how she doesn't want me to be like her or have the same regrets she does, so she was often harsh with how she treated me because of that, and it got out of control. Anytime I've tried to discuss this with her, I get shut down or only hear a bunch of excuses to justify her treatment of me. Sometimes I'll get, "I'm sorry you feel that way." I don't talk to my parents often. When I do, it's only about things that aren't really personal. I talk about my classes, my current internship, some projects, and that's it. We sit in this limbo where I've moved on from many things, recognizing that my mom was struggling to raise 5 kids as a SAHM, but a silent understanding that I won't get an apology for most of my upbringing. I do feel bad for going back and forth with my mom, but at the same time it felt a little freeing. Maybe it was how I saw her defeated for a bit, or because I've never told anyone about being so sneaky. I hope my mom can get professional help someday and learn to apologize for things. I know the past won't change. I just wish she would own up to her mistakes. But that would first require learning not to assume an apology meant she failed. I don't think my mom truly failed me, as there are many skills and knowledge I have because of her. I hope she realizes that one day. This is all the Reddit stories and Minecraft I've got for you today. Thank y'all so much for staying to the end. Bye!